today's call. That is our fireplace conversation. Not in front of the fire anymore. It's getting warmer here. Yet we do have a topic, and that is value. And I'm so curious to learn from you. What does value actually mean for you or to you? So who wants to go first? Nobody goes.
I'm happy to be the guinea pig. Um, the first thing that came to my mind, like what is value? The first thing is that the value doesn't always have to be a positive experience. Like I can, go through somebody's program, I can do something, I can partake in something, and just because there isn't like something that I've gained like in a positive manner per se, or what would be framed in like a positive manner, doesn't mean that that experience didn't hold value for me, right? Like it could have been a learning lesson. Oh, I'm not going to do this, or I don't want to set up my space this way, or that kind of thing. Or it could have pricked something, like, because I've been on this inner work journey for however long, it could have pricked something that showed me something else within myself that didn't have anything to do with why I signed up for this thing or why I partook in this thing. But that also is value to me, right? Which most people wouldn't necessarily call that value. So
how would you define the term? So
what is value? I'm not sure. There's a lot of people, and like the way that I grew up, like you perceive value as something like is being worth it, or as like there was a cost and a benefit to it, like the cost that you paid or that you put in was worth of the value, like whatever the benefit was from it. But I don't know if that really answers your question.
It's not about the answer for that.
Right.
It's I intentionally pick terms that are rich, so there might be more to it. Who wants to go? So, Brian, just for you to catch up, how this call works is I have some questions prepared, and we just take our round about our personal view of the thing I'm asking. And the first question was, what means value for you? As you come late, you just might go next.
Punishment, that is?
Never. Just like to welcome you with
loosen up. I was actually thinking about it before joining the call, what value means. To me, it's very simple, and it's something that adds to you or to your life. Could be either something very transactional, or could be something even emotional. I don't know, a conversation could be of value to you, because of the relief that you get or how you feel. So I will say that it's something that gets you from where you are right now into a different place that you would like to be. I think that would be my approach to what value is.
Super nice. Who wants to go next? It's either Des or Samantha. You can play.
You're going for the most discomfort. You're going for the time of the most discomfort before someone will fill the gap. Is that?
Well, Laura knows me. I can wait for a while, so I learned that. It took me some days, but I learned that.
Yeah, I think you have that as a skill set, which is highly refined. Okay, I think it's interesting about value because when we're talking about things like cost benefit, transactional nature of, and things like a conversation could be of value to you. And one of your questions was, what does value mean to you? And I had a slightly different thought about the subject, because one of the things that is my background noise too annoying, or is that actually going to be viable? Okay. So one of the things that I was kind of thinking of in terms of a slightly different angle was, your values and how your values fit together, and how that actually is a part of the question about what do you value might actually be in line with your values and how that works. So because we spend a lot of time talking about the fact that in motivational terms, one of the things around motivational is scientifically, the one thing we know in terms of trying to motivate people that actually works long-term consistently is to do motivation in line with your values, rather than motivation about, a motivational speech or something like that, which is an antecedent intervention. So, sorry, I slightly had maybe a different take on it, because partly, as I just rushed in, I read the thing and thought, yay, and then I didn't really read the questions until I got on the call.
Oh, good. It's, as mentioned, it's not mandatory. I will ask them again here.
Excellent. So I suppose I can't really answer what do you value most.
No, it's just like the first question. We take rounds.
Oh, you're in rounds. Okay, so I'm just doing
It was just your definition of value first.
Right. So what does value mean to me, really, is what the point, yeah? What value means value for you?
Your understanding of the term.
I suppose, really, in terms of the way the first couple of us have talked about it, we're talking about achieving something positive for you. I mean, Sarah did highlight the fact that it could actually have a cost and be of negative for you. There you go. I'm going to stop there because obviously I can talk quite a lot.
So then we have Samantha. But the good thing is we have 2 people left. I also will have something. So you're not the very last, Samantha.
I did a similar thing and also thought of values and stuff instead. So I'm happy I got to go last. I still don't really have a specific answer, but I think value to me is more emotional than it is to most people, because I save a lot of stuff that has 0 value objectively, but it means a lot to me because it's connected to a memory or a person or something like that. So I think I am more worried about the emotional component when it comes to value than any kind of monetary thing.
Thank you. For me, value personally is a perception. It's not even a thing. So some people think like, okay, a thing has a value, like Brian mentioned, transactional. You could put a dollar label on it, like give me so much money. But honestly, like, I don't know if you ever had the lucky or unlucky event of inheriting things. Until you don't find someone who's paying the thing for it, it's actually not worth anything, even if you pay the taxes for a assumed value that nobody is willing to pay for. So so value per se for me is really a perception, and it depends on if I give it a value or if someone else gives it value. And value created is actually only when those give it kind of the same value or can agree on the same level of thing. And maybe that is going back to what also Sarah was mentioning, or Samantha, is there can be a massive difference between the value someone gives to something and someone else. And that depends on so many reasons that I actually kind of stopped bothering about that part of it when it comes to the inner works, like the values we hold and carry. Interestingly enough, it could be the same. What we hold dear is not necessarily what someone else holds dear. And when it comes to money, we rationalize that. When it comes to emotional things, we almost fight over it. And that's also like something that for me is totally fascinating. As I already tipped into the value and valuing things, the next question is, what do you value most? Just in tradition, because it worked very well last time, for this question I go first. So what I value most is actually then more on the value side. So money is, I like it to an extent, but it's not what I value most. So, but same as with my personal values, I do not like when things are treated as not valuable. So like if people just throw things away and whatsoever. So that is not emotional actually, but it's more like being aware, being careful, being attentive with things. And that is something that transpires into my personal values as well. So it's there, the border in between is actually kind of blurry. And when it comes to my personal values, it for sure would be integrity and connections and just like having that human aspect around me is what I think is one of the biggest gifts people can give to me. So if someone is just like trying to impress me with something that costs a lot of money, it could create a typical Diana reaction with like, so, and so it's just like, so it might even alienate me. So it might even wonder like, is there something you want to achieve with that? So it would make me wonder. And it would not be that I have something against the thing itself. It's just like, so you cannot buy me, kind of. I don't know. So what do you value most?
In terms of what values you, yeah, no, you can't do me. I'm still thinking about it.
So you cannot name anything that you value most. Don't tell that your wife and your son and.
Oh no, who are they?
You didn't introduce them. You just randomly throw names around.
No, I mean they don't actually exist. I've been married for 25 years, but you don't really know that because she's never existed. It's in my head. So in terms of value, I think things like autonomy, integrity, connection, capability, what was that, adaptability, those sorts of things are things that stick in my head without me looking anything up. But I have done those sorts of exercises before. Yeah, I think the finances thing, yeah, I wouldn't. It's interesting that you're saying about you going first being a good thing. I think if I'd gone first, it wouldn't even have occurred to me to mention it, which is interesting because some people, when we talk about value, it is so connected to that dollar thing, and I hadn't thought of that really as an interesting thing. So there you go. Is that enough? Well, Samantha.
I don't know how to really answer this. One of the first things that came to mind was like memories, but I don't know if that counts as an answer.
Absolutely.
But that is like the way I choose. Like I have, my table is full of stuff that is just connected to memories, and that's how I pretty much choose everything around me. And it means a lot to me to have those things because I lost my memory a couple of years ago. So being able to remember stuff is very important to me.
Thank you for sharing. So now you can name someone.
Sarah.
It's interesting because one of the first, and I would have never said this before. Like, yes, family hubs, absolutely, right? Those are my most important people in my life. But also the human connection, like you mentioned, Diana. But the next thing that came, especially with the last 3 years of doing heavy unraveling and unmasking for my neurospicy and all of this other stuff, is the one thing that Des mentioned is autonomy, right? Or freedom. Like, yeah, we can go down the rabbit hole of like, are we really free? Are we really sovereign? La 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 la. But like at the same time, like doing all of that unraveling of the way I was brought up and the religion I was brought up in and in society and all of being the oldest girl in my family, like all of this stuff and how I tried to operate for so long, kind of like Samantha, where she said what she values most is like she realized she didn't have the memory, like she lost her memory. So now it's like highly valuable to her. So in the same way, a lot of my life, I didn't move in an autonomous way because I had this box, right, that I operated from. And this is the way a wife looks, and this is the way a mom looks, and this is the way a homeschooling parent looks, and this is how you do this and this and that. And it about killed me. So like being able to fully firmly plant myself in my autonomy, however much or little I have, is extremely important to me. And I prefer to converse and interact with other humans that realize their own autonomy and their sovereignty because, you know, the brain to brain connection. But I also really highly value creativity, you know, whether that's art or music, or, and that's another human element, right? Like, yeah, AI tries to copy it, you know, la, 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 but like that's a true human experience. And to be able to partake in whether somebody else has created something or I have created something, and it doesn't even have to be like art or music or food, like creating anything, like it doesn't have to look like the standard creativity. Like that puts me in awe a lot of the time, like the way that our brains work and the way that we maneuver and what can come when we choose to like let go and choose to step into whatever that is. Like that excites me a lot. Brian, you're next.
Thank you, Sarah. I think over the past couple of years, I've been more aware of the value of human connection, actually. Kind of getting into a lost art, connecting with other people. To me, it's not actually a skill. It's part of who you are as a human, but it seems like people is losing it, like how to connect with other people, like, and all this division around us is making it harder for, you know, people who think different to sit in the same room and listen respectfully and without judgment and all that. And given the fact that I'm a facilitator, that I work with groups of people, I'm actually aware of the power when humans connect and tackle a challenge, even if they don't fully agree on some of the things, but they have like a higher purpose to tackle it. I mean, I can share experience from my first virtual workshops, which was around COVID time, and we were working with people in Peru who were trying to find out ways to prevent COVID to continue to spread, and their purpose was, I'm doing this for myself, for my family, for my friends. And that just makes you, okay, that hit hard for me as a facilitator. So I've seen what people can do when they come together. So all this division that some groups are trying to create, it's something that I really challenge, and I really appreciate when someone, you know, opens, share a thought or share experience as Samantha did. You really appreciate that. You really value that from people opening and sharing their story. So that's something that I've come to really, really, really value in the past couple of years.
Thank you so much. I actually think I skipped the third question and go directly to the fourth, just to make it more fun. Is it important to you to be of value? Ooh. Especially for people who consider themselves a coach or someone who likes to help. That's a good one. So I just continue with the popcorn thingy. Sam, how about going first?
Yay.
I write you the question in the chat.
I was so ready for the third question. That was the only one I had an answer to.
Maybe we come back.
But yes, it is important to me to be of value. Maybe not in a like objective sense, but like my mission to make 5 people smile every day is like my way of being a positive influence on people around me, and I hope that is valuable to some people, and that's like a small way I try to like give back to the people around me. So yeah, it is important to me, and it's something I think about probably more than I should sometimes. This.
I was sitting there just thinking about that and lost my own world. So we're on, is it important to be of value? Yes. And yeah, oh yeah, sorry, my immediate reaction was massively. And that's kind of the nutshell. But to elaborate a little bit, I've been teaching my whole life, and I was thinking a bit more about the value thing from an earlier question. I value competence, I value movement, and I value giving people. My kind of modus operandi is I give people confidence, and they can become more confident in difficult situations, and so that is a massive hit for me, and it clicks in with my need for meaningful work, which is not value, and so I massively need to be of value, and I think that's self-reinforcing for me. And if I'm not providing value, I find another way to help somebody, or I find someone else to help, because I need to provide value for people as an integral part of my soul or being, or whatever it is that you want to call it. Brian.
Thank you, Dennis. Yeah, I think to me that was like obviously. I mean, what's the point being here and not adding value to? But yeah, I mean, I believe that well, none of us ask to be brought into Earth. We were put here by whoever you believe in, a higher source of power or whatever. But we are here for a reason. Part of life is finding out what the reason is. But since you are here, and you have a reason to be here, I think you got to make it work. You being here, and I relate to what Sam shared about making 5 people smile every day, because I do have a kind of a mission that I gave myself to. If I'm here, I better be, this world better be at least 1% better when I leave. So that 1% is not that, it's daily. I look that up daily. So if I have an interaction with someone, I don't know, a cashier at a supermarket or anything, I will take that opportunity to make that person feel better, or to smile, or to whatever. And that you when you get that, when you talk to someone, like at a supermarket, and you make that person smile, that kind of gets you going, like, yes, there's my 1%. So I'm going for the next one. That's my 1% today. So might be some ego into that, but it gets you going, and it gives you a reason to get going in life. Yeah. We are here to add value. That's what I believe. Sarah, it's to you now.
It's my turn. So like my neurospicy, like, what is that called? I don't know, that automatic gut like it because my brain goes to automatic, like pushing myself to do this perceived value thing or like whatever. And like you mentioned, Diana, like everybody has a just different perception of what value is for them or for, you know, other people and that kind of thing. And I also know that personally for me, like what my most important imperative thing, especially over the last however many years, and like even with my parenting, it's like I want my children to figure out what lights them up and do their thing in the world so that they can provide a little bit for themselves. But I want them to be able to do what they came here to do, right? What lights them up, because automatically, if you're lit up, that energy, that frequency changes the world, whether they intend to do that or not. So like my whole like philosophy, like I'm a lifelong learner. Like I want to keep growing. I want to keep expanding. I want to keep, you know, which then, you know, is value an external thing or is it an internal thing? Because the more that I work on my internal stuff and that kind of thing, the more my frequency changes and the energy I put out into the world changes. And it doesn't matter if I'm, you know, resting in my bed, you know, binge watching a Netflix show, or, you know, on a one-on-one call with someone helping them with their business. Like all of those things hold value. And I don't necessarily have to artificially like try or attempt, you know, to put value out into the world. Just my existence and just my being and my growth and my expansion. I'm okay with that being enough value put into the world. Because like sometimes I've found when I try to push or I try to, you know, like it's not even like an artificial thing. Like I just try too hard. It cluster fucks up a whole bunch of stuff and creates a lot of mess. And not that that's not value. And I can see, and I've learned, right? Like I'm old, like, you know, all of my years of being here and lots of trial and error and all of that. Like the more that I can just flow and like follow that internal compass and do what lights me up, the more that energy then ripples out into other people or even to the earth, right? Like we're talking about value, like to other people, but like, you know, I choose to rotate my chickens on the earth instead of having them in a static pen, which then gives them a better life, which gives us more healthy eggs, but also benefits the soil, right? So like they're just little things like that, that it's not necessarily value in the technical mainstream sense.
Mm. So many interesting points of views. I do have actually a very different one. I don't have to be of value. And that comes from, again, a different perception. So I like what you mentioned, Brian. I am here for a reason. And the things I willingly or not so willingly learned during my years here, they need to be good for something. Otherwise, I really would have a massive question mark on them. Yet, really, like, if you go through that amount of beep, it just needs to be good for something. So I needed to get something out of that. And for me, that is the capability to hold space on a greater scale than some can. And I know that that is valuable, but it doesn't mean that people see that as valuable. So this is the value I bring to the table, but it's not the value I want them to see in me. So that would be even odd. So if I rationalize that, we say, oh, she had to go through all of that, just that she can do that for me. That's actually nice. Is what the beat. So, but literally like that. And again, Brian, thank you for giving me so many nuggets. The ego part wants to be perceived as valuable and needs the validation of that is actually something valuable. I think we all go through stages and we all have our learning curves. And I think that need of validation has its time when we learn, grow, and expand. But when we work, especially like as coaches or mentors with people, if we just do that to be validated, that is creating a strange kind of dynamics, or we make them things do just so that we look better, or they followed my words, and that is clashing with my system. So I want them to create the value for themselves, and I create the space for that, the container. And if they don't see it, it's fine. And strangely enough, I had to learn that, because like, for whatever reason, that is just like part of who I am. I don't define my value over the things that people do because of me. That is, now going back to the values, that is something that as a principle I actually really like, because I want to make it about them. So ideally, I do not even know what made the difference. Sometimes I hear it years later. And honestly, like that is like a very deep joy, but it's like a curious child, you know. It's like, so, oh, I didn't know that I did that. And that is kind of effortlessly. That is kind of nothing that has to happen on my terms. And for me personally, that is the highest value I actually can provide, not being of value. Is that totally abstract, or does it make sense?
I'd like to throw in on that if I can.
Yeah, give it to me.
I think we might have talked about this before, but I'll do it on the call. One of the things that happens to me regularly, which I think fits in with some of what you're saying, is that my course stock is 1 to 5, but basically 3-day course. And on the intro on day 3, people will say things in the intro which are contradictory to what I'm going to create. And we let it slide at that point. And then in 3 days, they have a major shift. And at the end of 3 days, they sit there in a circle and they go, I'm really glad someone has made a course that fits in with my belief system, even though 3 days ago they had a completely different belief system. And so the issue is that that's a paradigm shift. They actually cannot believe they had that belief before because I've shifted it. They don't know I've shifted it. And that's partly what you're talking about there is the issue is, how does that happen? Well, I've done it enough. I mean, I've done that with 30,000 people. I know that, and I've done it enough to know what I do to create that. And I know that whenever someone talks about something, I know I can let it slide and I'll have an impact later on. But the issue is, because it's a paradigm shift, they don't necessarily know that you've had any impact, which is fascinatingly interesting, but it gives me the hit, even though nobody knows.
Exactly. But you're not doing it for them getting it. It's okay when they get it and you are happy about it.
Yeah.
And I think that is, and come on, Des, we both know coaches who just like, you have to do exactly that because otherwise it's not my success with my client. But it's for him, for her, for however this person identifies. But what I really like is what you mentioned, like with that is one of the reasons why I do not like the whole coaching industry buzzwordy thingies. Take the classic breakthrough. They had a massive breakthrough and they tell about it for years. It's exactly what you said. If they had it, they couldn't tell. So from NLP, there's a psychology. So if you really had a shift, you do not even know that previous version. And as long as you can tell the tale, then you just find another thing to scratch. There's the reason why there's that term self-improvement junkie, you know, like there is something to it. Oh, I need to find something more that I can have that feeling of I got rid of it, and something more that is wrong with me. So, gosh, and you have some people, and I think you met some of those, or some of you met some of those who are just like desperately looking for something more that is wrong with them. And honestly, those people scare me a little bit. Just like there's such a dynamic to it. Like, give me more of what's wrong with me. I say, you cannot have that from me. I'm so sorry. But yes, like a real, like if someone really had a shift, they don't know.
Years ago, we used to do pre and post data collection, which we haven't we haven't done in decades, but we used to do pre and post data collection and graph the shift in things like confidence and the like. And people, especially if it's been over a number of days, people will fill in the same form and they don't remember what they said, or they've had enough of a shift that they don't remember enough, and they pick whatever it is. And the thing can be completely significant, but they don't necessarily relate in the same way.
And it's kind of what I was mentioning. So then the value is not perceived, but it's given. And it can be hard, like it's just like they had all those wonderful things. And I think Sarah is a mom, like how often are you appreciated for all the little things? And I thought I'm the mistress of the rolling eyes. Gosh, Sarah, you outperform me by.
It gets better when they get older and you can see the ripple effects and you can see them stepping more fully into themselves and like know that you had some sort of impact, whether they realize it or not. But like, that's not what I came here to do per se. But like, you can see little bits of things and you're just like, oh, that's super cool. That's super cool. And then once their frontal lobe finishes, developing, and then you get to be friends. That's the best thing ever. So
super nice. Well, we have some minutes left, so we could go back to number 3, or we could end the call and leave it here. So
I'd just add something about reality. I think one of the things about getting into these conversations, you highlighted, Diana, earlier, you highlighted about perception and reality. And the issue is all of this is about symbolic language and how you hold what a word really means. But all of it is also about your own reality. So I can say a sentence and all 4 of you will perceive that sentence differently because your reality, you're essentially choosing your reality about the information you receive. And that's how people can end up in, like, for example, on the course today, someone had a bit of a reaction to me. And when we analyzed it with their boss and with the other trainer, it turned out that really she couldn't take any form of feedback without thinking it was criticism. And so that's her reality, is that she's in a fixed mindset. And so we change our reality, and we can create that. I don't want to get too sidetracked into that. Sorry. There you go.
And that's the beauty of a conversation like that. You normally don't have the opportunity to talk through a topic like that in that depth with some people from all over the world with different backgrounds. So I think that's just beautiful to get those different views and ideas. I repeat my question. Should we go for the last question? What is needed to provide value, or do we just skip it? Whoever speaks dooms the rest of us.
Maybe you should just knock it on the head then.
So what do you think is needed to provide value, Des? You spoke.
Right, okay. Second, I think one of the things about what would be needed to provide value, if you're actually going to provide value, if you're actually going to have that, to put something into that gap, whatever that might be, in the first place, I don't want to use the word twice. There has to be a need. And I was going to say there needs to be a need, and that just totally confused the issue. So there has to be some gap that has a need for something for the value
You still need to popcorn to someone.
Sarah, well done.
what was the question again, Diana?
What is needed to provide value?
That's a hard one because I already gave you like my like the answer to the last question. Like, I guess for me in my particular circumstance, the way that I move through life is to not give up, like to just continue to grow and to like experience life and also share it, like whether it's with the people that I love or with the people that I work with or however I choose to share it. Although even just going through that experience for myself, holds value to me. So like, is it an external thing or is it an internal thing? So for me, it's just staying open to whatever the universe provides or draws me into, and to continue to grow and to continue to move forward in a forward trajectory. And that doesn't always look like doing more or like, you know, anything like that, because there are a lot of days where I rest a lot, like, and that's just what my body is requiring, and that kind of thing. But like, I'm always forever like interested, like there's a curiosity, right? Like that's almost what I pursue, like the curious things. And then as a byproduct, it ends up providing value. So maybe that's what I need to be able to provide value. Samantha, you're up.
I usually don't know if my answer is a good answer because I don't remember exactly why, but the word that came up for me was intention, or like having a good intention with the thing that you're doing. So, but I can't like get back what I wanted to say. It's probably also not the only thing that's needed, but I do think it's important to have good intentions behind the actions. And I think that is a part of providing value or being of value.
That is beautiful, my dear.
Thank you. And now, Brian.
Yeah. I was thinking about that one, and I remember that session in Peru at the end of the 4 days working with the teams. One of the participants, a girl actually, asked the people who were organizing the event to she asked to have a couple of minutes with me at the end of the session, and I was like, oops, what did I do? It's easier to go to the negative side than to think about, hey, I did something great, I'm going to be. So when the event was over, she was allowed to they asked me, and I said, like, sure, if it's feedback, I'll take it, and if it's something else, I'll be more than happy to take it also. And she was actually, I still remember the words that she used that day, and it was like, I really appreciate how you got the process and how you led us to a solution. But what I value the most, and I was like, okay, what I value the most is the things that you help me get to know about myself, abilities that I didn't know I had. That was not my intention, but I'm glad that I did. So if you ask me now, like, what is needed to add value based on that experience, I have no idea what I did. And I will take what Samantha said, is it was just the good intention of helping people, and that's it. But it was not my intention to help her find that she was leader, that she could take the project by herself, and she was able to manage the group and everything. It was not my intention when I designed the sessions. It was that I wasn't thinking about it, but that's what she valued out of that experience. And I was like, now that you ask me, like, what you do, I have no idea. I just run the session, and she find value in something else I was not even thinking about it. So it's all good intentions, I guess.
You just gave me the absolutely perfect handover, because I say the opposite for the same reason. I have to give value to it first. That means when I am not clear that that is valuable, how should someone else perceive it as valuable if I don't give that off? And while you've been talking, I said, how does this connect? It's the exact opposite. It's not, because you very likely, either consciously or subconsciously, acknowledged her capabilities and her value in that. And so you saw the value in she's doing that well and allowed her to see it through that. And maybe you did not phrase it that way. But if I say it that way, had you seen that she can do that? Was it, or have been the both of you surprised? Like, so, yeah, sure you don't know that, and it's just like falling from heaven. So I think when we see the value either in what people do, what they don't acknowledge, and can praise that, can put that out, can give that words, same as the value we have, you know, sometimes it's just literally saying like, no, that is not just happening. So this is something that you get for whatever reasons. So like it's changing the value if you give it the value. Maybe the only thing that I can do to make sure that I provide value, because otherwise it's just their perception and has nothing to do with me. And then I do not have any influence over it.
My brain's kind of interesting, and I'm trying to like mull this. I don't know if the words are going to come out right. So like, yes, and I can see how they're the same. Like it's, and it doesn't matter that what the value, the bigger value, the one that she valued the most was different than the value you intended on giving to the people, right? Like she mentioned that value, and then she got extra value that then she valued even more, right? So there was still that intention, there was still that known part that you knew that you had value to bring or that you were going to give, right? So yeah, I can see how they are the same.
And it's interesting because like the initial words are polar opposite.
Right.
Gosh, dears, that was so much fun. Thank you so much. I would end the recording here.